Has Bill Gates turned into a climate denier? Not quite. But he's made a lot of climate deniers very happy this week by declaring that climate change isn't a big deal. It's a huge turnaround from what the billionaire was saying just 4 years ago when he published his book. Back then, he warned that heating would kill the coral reefs, forests, and beaches, acidify the oceans, and turn hundreds of millions of people into climate refugees. Now he's saying political leaders should stop worrying so much about global temperature rise and focus on things like health and agriculture. He bases this in part on the fact that the Trump administration has cut off U.S. aid funding, causing a health and food crisis in poor countries. With only so many dollars to go around, we've got to save what lives we can now. It's hard to disagree, but Gates goes a step too far by arguing there's a trade-off between that and slowing down climate change. He's basically saying we should choose adapting to a hotter planet over stopping the planet from getting much hotter. The problem is that the planet has already heated up a lot, and that is already causing problems. Droughts, fires, floods, heat waves, and massive hurricanes like Melissa are making it harder to live, work, and farm. Rising heat is causing disease-carrying mosquitoes to spread around the world. Fighting climate change can't be separated from fighting poverty, famine, and poor health. Like the Office meme, they're the same picture. Gates says climate change won't end humanity, but that's not the reassuring message he seems to think it is. A lot of human suffering can happen long before humanity comes close to going extinct. Gates is still spending some of his riches on fighting climate change, but his note sounds like he's quiet quitting the fight, or at least encouraging governments that are on the fence to do so. We don't have to listen to him. In fact, it's a mistake we can't afford to make.
Bill Gates just surprised everyone with new statements about climate change that few saw coming. In a recent essay titled 3 Tough Truths About Climate, Gates wrote that climate change will not destroy humanity, saying people will still be able to live and thrive in most parts of the world for decades to come. He also admitted that fighting emissions can sometimes hurt human welfare, arguing that too many resources are being spent on climate projects, while issues like hunger and disease are being ignored. Gates wrote, "Climate change is not the biggest threat to the lives and livelihoods of people in poor countries, and it won't be in the future." For his third truth, he said there simply isn't enough money to fund every green idea, and that much of today's climate spending goes to expensive or ineffective efforts. His conclusion: investing in health and prosperity may actually be our best defense against climate change. This matters because Gates is one of the most influential voices in global policy. So his shift in focus could impact how governments, investors, and activists spend billions in the years ahead. What do you think? Smart realism or downplaying the crisis? Let me know in the comments.
This is a historic moment in the climate debate. It truly is.
It is. It almost makes me wonder if he's planning to run for office or something, because it's just such a monumental flip-flop. And I seriously want to know, Mark, why now?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. But first of all, you mentioned his book. His book was called Bill Gates, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster. That's his big opus on the climate. Now, what's changed about the climate disaster? It's unbelievable. What he's saying now is it's time to put human welfare at the center of strategies. The climate will not lead to humanity's desires, human development, high on the... I mean, these are all opposite of everything Bill Gates has ever said. He sounds more like Trump now. And the answer is very simple. A, you had decades of failure with the climate debate to the point where, you know, even Europe can't hold on to it, to the point where the Canadian Prime Minister earlier this year, one of his first acts, Mark Carney, World Economic Forum official, Central Bank of England in Canada, the head of it, comes in and zeroes out the carbon tax in Canada. You have the Green New Deal halted in Europe. You have the Prime Minister in Germany who's reversing their green goals. You have all this rebellion, the farmers rebelling across Europe. You have similar things happening in Australia. You have globally the whole agenda that people realize they can't hold the lies together, the solar, the wind.
Climate is a super important problem. There's enough innovation here to avoid super bad outcomes. We won't achieve our best goal, the 1.5 or even the 2 degrees. And as we go about trying to minimize that, we have to frame it in terms of overall human welfare, not just everything should be solely for climate.
How much of your own view is a function of just contextually what's happening in the world versus what I think you've thought for a long time about the climate?
Well, if the aid budgets to poor countries were continuing to go up the way they did over the last 25 years, then the trade-offs between climate action and saving children's lives wouldn't be as acute as it is now that these budgets are going down, and going down quite a bit. And so the plea here is to say, okay, let's take that very limited money and not have some partitioned off for particular causes. Let's measure it all in terms of the human welfare. How do you help those countries?